The modern world treats laughter as a simple thing. You saw something funny, you laughed. But 300,000 years ago, laughter was a matter of life and death. Laughter held the tribe together. Laughter built trust. Without laughter, the group fell apart. Have you ever noticed, the moments you laugh the hardest are never when you're alone, always with someone, always inside a group? That's not a coincidence. Laughter isn't a feeling, it's a signal, and that signal has been carrying the same message for 300,000 years. We are still here, we are still together. It's 30,000 years ago, southern France, deep inside a cave system that will one day be called Chauvet. A group of 20 people has gathered around a fire after a long day of moving across difficult terrain. They are tired. They are hungry in the particular way that comes after eating enough, but not quite enough. The fire is low. The night outside the cave entrance is full of things they cannot see and cannot name. And then someone trips, not dramatically, not dangerously, just misjudges a step, catches their foot on something, stumbles into the person next to them with a sound that is equal parts surprising and undignified. There is a half-second of silence, and then the cave fills with laughter, not polite laughter, not the managed, socially calibrated laughter of people who are aware they are laughing, the uncontrollable kind, the kind that doubles people over, the kind that spreads from one person to the next before anyone has consciously decided to find anything funny. Now ask yourself something. What just happened in that cave that hadn't been happening a moment before? The fire didn't change. The night outside didn't change. The hunger didn't change. The exhaustion didn't change. But something in the air changed. Something between the 20 people sitting around that fire shifted, imperceptibly, immediately, completely. And if you had been standing in that cave watching, you might have described it as, the group relaxed, not individually, together, as one. That is what laughter was doing 30,000 years ago. That is what it is still doing every time it moves through a room. And the story of how it got there, how this particular sound, this specific involuntary convulsion human body became the thing that holds groups of people together, goes back much further than that cave, much further than our species, much further than anything we would recognize as human at all. Here is what we have been told about laughter, that it is a response to humor, that something funny happens, the brain registers it as funny, and laughter is the output. Simple input, simple output, cause and effect. This is not wrong exactly, but it is incomplete in a way that misses almost everything important, because laughter happens constantly in situations that have nothing to do with humor. It happens during nervousness, during embarrassment, during the first few seconds of a conversation with a stranger when nobody has said anything remotely funny yet. It happens when two people make eye contact across a room and something passes between them, something wordless, something immediate, and both of them laugh without knowing why. It happens, researchers have found, about 30% more often in social situations than when people are alone, 30% more, which means laughter is not primarily a response to something funny, it is primarily a social behavior, a thing the body does when other bodies are nearby. And to understand why, you have to go back approximately 7 million years. 7 million years ago, the primate lineage that would eventually produce humans was doing something that every primate lineage was doing, living in groups, competing for resources, building and maintaining social bonds that determined everything about survival, who ate when food was scarce, who was protected when threats appeared, who mattered and who didn't. And the way primates maintained those bonds was physical. They groomed each other, picked through each other's fur, removed parasites and debris, and made physical contact that released oxytocin, built trust, confirmed alliance. This worked, it worked for millions of years. The problem was that it was slow. You can only groom one animal at a time. You can only maintain a social bond through physical contact with one individual during the period you are making that contact. In a group of 10 primates, this was manageable. In a group of 20, it started to strain. In a group of 50, the size at which early human social groups were beginning to operate, it was mathematically impossible to maintain bonds through physical contact alone. There simply weren't enough hours. This is the problem that Robin Dunbar, an anthropologist at Oxford University, has spent decades trying to understand. Why did humans develop language? Why did we develop the capacity for the complex, symbolic, socially sophisticated communication that no other primate can match? His answer, and it is a genuinely extraordinary one, is this: language is grooming at scale. When you sit with one person and talk, really talk, the kind of talking that feels like maintenance of something important, your brain releases the same neurochemicals that physical grooming releases: oxytocin, endorphins, the chemical signature of social bond being confirmed. But you can talk to 5 people simultaneously. You can maintain 5 bonds in the time it used to take to maintain 1. And before language had fully developed, before the brain had the machinery for complex symbolic speech, there was something earlier, something simpler, something that did the same job in a more primitive form. Laughter, the panting laughter of our primate ancestors, the rhythmic vocalization that chimpanzees still produce during play, during social bonding, during the moments when the group comes together after stress, that sound is the direct evolutionary ancestor of human laughter. The same breath pattern, the same neurochemical release, the same social function. Primatologist Marina de Villa-Ross at the University of Portsmouth spent years mapping the acoustic structure of laughter across the great ape family: chimpanzees, gorillas, orangutans, bonobos, gibbons, and what she found was a clear evolutionary gradient. The closer the species is related to humans, the closer its laughter sounds to ours. It is the same sound, modified over millions of years, refined, made more flexible, more controllable, more capable of carrying social information. But the same sound, which means when you laugh, when something moves through you before you decide anything, you're producing a sound that your ancestors were producing before they were your species, before they were recognizably human, before they had language or fire or any of the things we associate with being human. Laughter is older than all of it. But here is where the story takes a turn. Because if laughter is just an old grooming vocalization, a social bonding sound inherited from our primate past, why does it feel the way it does? Why does it take over the body the way it does? Why is it so spectacularly, almost violently, uncontrollable? The answer is in what happened to human groups as they got larger and more complex, and it changes everything about how you understand every laugh you have ever had. In 1993, a neuroscientist named Robert Provine at the University of Maryland began what became one of the most comprehensive studies of laughter ever conducted. He and his team didn't study laughter in laboratory conditions. They went into the real world, shopping malls, college campuses, crowded public spaces, and simply observed thousands of interactions, tens of thousands of individual instances of laughter. What they found demolished the conventional understanding almost completely. First, laughter almost never followed a joke. In natural social settings, only about 18% of laughter episodes were preceded by anything conventionally funny. The other 82% occurred after ordinary statements, greetings, questions, comments about nothing in particular. People were laughing constantly, not because of humor, but because they were together. Second, laughter was asymmetric. The person speaking laughed significantly more than the person listening, not the other way around, as you might expect if laughter were purely a response to something funny. The speaker, the person making the social bid, the one reaching out, laughed more, because laughter, Provine concluded, was not a response. It was an invitation. Think about what that means in terms of what laughter was actually doing in those prehistoric groups. In a group of 50 people, all of them stressed, all of them hungry to some degree, all of them navigating the complex social architecture of who trusts whom and who owes what to whom, you need a way to signal your own state, not just to one person, but to multiple people, simultaneously, without words. You need a way to say, I am not a threat right now, I am not on the edge of aggression, I am not carrying a grievance that is about to become everyone's problem, I am, in this moment, safe to be near. Laughter does all of this in under a second. The sound is involuntary enough to be trusted. You cannot reliably fake laughter in a way that sounds convincing to people who know you well. The body produces it too fast, too physically, too completely for strategic deception to work consistently, which makes it what behavioral biologists call an honest signal. When someone laughs, genuinely laughs, the people near them receive information they can actually trust. This person is not in threat mode. This person is open. This person, right now, is safe. And in a world where threat assessment, was a constant, continuous, metabolically expensive process where your nervous system was running a background program at all times asking, is this person safe? Is this person safe? Is this person safe? A reliable signal that someone was safe was not a small thing. It was relief, collective, chemical, physical relief. Now let's go back to the cave in southern France, because the story I started with has a detail I didn't mention. In 1994, when the team of researchers led by Jean-Marie Chauvet first entered the cave that now bears his name, they found the paintings that would astonish the world. Lions mid-movement, rhinoceroses in herds, horses rendered with a delicacy that still moves professional artists. But they also found something smaller, something easy to miss among the grandeur of the paintings. Handprints, dozens of them, pressed against the cave walls in red and black pigment, the hands of real people, adults and children, who stood in this cave 36,000 years ago and left the most basic mark a body can make. I was here. We cannot know what those people were doing when they made those prints. We cannot know what they felt. We cannot hear their voices or their laughter. But we know this. They were there together, multiple people, in a dark cave lit only by fire, making something, marking something, participating in something that required the group to be present. And if you know anything about how human groups work, if you understand the neurochemistry of shared experience, the way bodies respond to doing something together in the dark with no purpose except the doing of it, you know that there was laughter in that cave. Not because anything was funny, because they were together, because they were alive, because the group was intact, because that is what laughter signals, always. That is the only thing it has ever signaled. We are still here. We are still together. Here is the other piece of this that almost nobody talks about. Laughter is contagious not by accident but by design. When you hear laughter, your brain does not process it the same way it processes other sounds. Researchers at University College London placed people inside brain scanners and played them a series of sounds, positive sounds like laughter and triumph, negative sounds like screaming and retching, and they measured the motor cortex response. The motor cortex, the part of the brain that controls your body's movements. When participants heard laughter, the motor cortex activated, preparing the muscles involved in producing laughter before the person had consciously registered anything, before they had decided to laugh or not laugh, before any choice was made. The brain heard laughter and immediately began preparing the body to produce laughter. The contagion is not social pressure. It is not that you laugh because you think you should or because you don't want to seem unfriendly. Your brain is literally, neurologically, automatically mirroring the laugh before you have any say in the matter. This is the mechanism that Provine documented across thousands of social interactions. This is why it spreads across a room. This is why a single person laughing in a quiet space will, within seconds, produce laughter from people who don't even know what started it. Because the function of contagious laughter is not to share the joke. It is to synchronize the group. In those prehistoric camps, in that cave in southern France, around fires that archaeologists have dated to specific moments in time, what contagious laughter was doing was taking 20 or 30 individual nervous systems and pulling them into a brief, powerful chemical alignment. For the seconds that a wave of laughter moved through a group, those people were not 20 separate individuals managing 20 separate threat assessments and social calculations. They were one system, breathing together, producing the same sound, releasing the same neurochemicals. And in a world where survival depended on the group acting as a unit, on 20 people moving together, deciding together, defending together, that synchronization was not trivial. It was infrastructure. Now think about the last time you really laughed. Not politely, not socially, the kind that took over. Where were you? Almost certainly with other people. Almost certainly the laughter moved from one person to another, feeding back, building, becoming something bigger than what started it. Almost certainly, for those seconds, you were not thinking about anything that had been worrying you before. Your nervous system had been given the signal it has been waiting for since before you were born, since before your species existed in its current form. The group is intact. The group is well. The threat level is low. You can stop scanning for a moment. Rest. There is a researcher named Sophie Scott at University College London who has spent decades studying the neuroscience of laughter. One of her findings, the one that stops people when they hear it, is this. The brain regions activated during genuine laughter overlap significantly with the brain regions activated during social bonding. the same regions, the same chemical releases, the same neural architecture. Which means, at a neurological level, laughing with someone is not different in kind from bonding with someone. It is bonding. Immediate, efficient, ancient bonding, achieved through the medium of a sound your ancestors were making before they had language to name what they were doing. And here is what that means for the modern world. In an era when many people feel a kind of disconnection, a background loneliness that exists even in the presence of constant digital contact, the specific kind of connection that laughter produces is not replaceable by text. It is not replaceable by an emoji. It is not replaceable by any form of communication that doesn't involve two nervous systems in proximity, one producing the sound and the other involuntarily beginning to mirror it. The body knows the difference. The ancient system is not fooled. Here is what I want you to take from this. The next time laughter takes over, the next time it moves through you before you decide anything, the next time you find yourself laughing without quite knowing why, the next time someone across a room catches your eye and something passes between you that neither of you chose. Don't dismiss it. Don't file it as a pleasant accident. Recognize it for what it is. The oldest social technology your species ever built, running exactly as designed to run, in exactly the situation it was designed for. Two nervous systems, in proximity, synchronized, the group is intact. And somewhere, 30,000 years ago in a cave lit by a fire that has been cold for 10,000 years, 20 people laughed at someone tripping over their own feet, and for a few seconds, everything outside the cave meant a little less. That sound, that exact sequence of involuntary breath, has been carrying people through hard nights for longer than our species has had a name. It carried them. It carries you. See you in the next one.